Welcome back. We're going to look at documentation, and we're also going to go a little bit more into what we're seeing here when we open first time debugging. Just trying to slowly understand what we're looking at. So here on the left hand side, you see my file tree, and these are some files that are automatically created for you anytime that you create a single view application. So these are just the files that you need, and as soon as you create one, if you don't make any changes to the code, then you run it, you're just going to see a white screen, a blank screen. And like for this one, it would be an iPhone 8 Plus looking screen, and it would just be plain with nothing on it. So here, the first thing that you notice when you enter, we're looking at appledelegate.swift, is that we see something that's called import UI kit. And the UI kit is it's basically the framework that you will use most often when developing iOS applications. It defines all the core components of an iOS application, things like labels and buttons, table views, and navigation controllers. Next, this here is kind of, if you've ever coded and you've had a main program, this is like the main program. This is where we have UI application main. This is where your program, when you execute your application, this is where it's going to enter and first execute in the application. There always has to be a starting place, so this is what we call the starting place. Okay, so here we have class, Apple Delegate, not Apple, but just App Delegate, UI Responder. So if I click on UI Responder and I press Command, and then so right now I highlighted UI Responder. I'm going to hold the Command key and I'm going to click on UI Responder. And then I'm going to click on Show Quick Help. And what this does is anytime that you're in a program, if there's something that you don't understand, a class or something that's part of Swift, or code that's just Java code that, it's a class or something that comes with Java, then, or Swift, you can look at the definition, or what we call the documentation of the class. So this class right here is called UI Responder, and it says an abstract interface for responding to and handling events, and it has a bunch of other stuff, lots and lots of information. So basically it just handles events. For example, it can handle an event like input, or it can handle an event just anything that happens on the application. And so here it says responder objects, that is instance of UI responder, constitute the event handling backbone of a UI kit application. There are several kinds of events, including touch events, motion events, remote control events, and press event. So if I touch a button, that's an event. If I click once, that's an event. If I double click, that's a different kind of event. Just touching or touching and moving my finger while I'm touching, some kind of icon would be a different type of event. So this is UI responder. Then here we have UI application delegate. I click on it. I'm going to press command and click on it, and then I'm going to jump to the definition. Now on this, let's see, it's taking a, there we go. On this one, you're actually going to see all the different functions that go with the UI application delegate or the methods. And so for example, on this one, we say we have application did become active. That is self-explanatory. Application did finish launching. So these are different functions that I can call, and I can find out, did my application finish launching? Is it active? Also, some of these, notice here in green, you have a little bit more information. It says, try to clean up as much memory as possible. Next step is to terminate app. So application did receive memory warning. Okay. Let's see here, I have some more information about these. Application did enter background, so you would use this method to release share resources. So if you now if the application is in the background because you're using a different app, you release any kind of resources that you're using. You would save the user data and store enough application state information to restore the application to the current state in case it is terminated later. All this information I'm just reading from extra information I have about this particular function. Okay, so in this lesson, it just wants you to get familiar with the how to access the documentation. Okay, so anytime that so let's just click on other things to see if we can do the same thing. So let's say we click on class and we click on command. Let me put this down. I'm going to click on command. Here we go. No. Okay. So here, this right here is actually showing me, I'm going to go down a little bit, my entire class, where it starts and where it ends. So it's going to be all the way at the bottom. So it says jump to definition, quick help. I can add a method, I can add a property. Oh, let's do fold. Boom. I love that. I think that's cool. You can, so let's click on it again. The folding is good because then it gets, maybe there's a bunch of code and you want to get rid of it. You just want to focus on one particular code. Then you can fold your different classes and different functions. So we're going to click on jump to definition, and it goes to Apple Delegate. And then I click on it again, jump to definition. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say jump to definition. Show quick help, and it tells me about the class. It tells me I've declared this class in Apple Delegate Swift, and it is importing these two or using these two classes. And show quick help for the class. Same thing. Now, if I go down to function, like application, and I say jump to definition, then it jumps to the file that contains the definition of application. And if I have my own definition, for example, let's see, right here. So this here, we have a class called view controller. We have a function called some method. We call the function right here, and we define it right here. So if I were to click on it here, and I would say jump to definition, it should jump to where we define the function, and that's where the function is defined. So always click on whatever it is, right click on it and see what options you have. So let's click on sample, and notice that it highlights everywhere that I use sample. If I right click on sample, I can again jump to definition, and it shows me where it's defined. The other thing that I could do is, which is really nice, I can rename it, and it's going to rename in all the places that I define sample. Let's see what show quick help gives us. Okay, so this just tells me sample is a variable and is defined as a string. So that's also nice. And it tells me where it's declared. So it's declared in viewcontroller.swift. So if for some reason I happen to be in a different file and I'm using sample and I want to figure out where it's defined, I can click on it and it will tell me. And this is really good when you have really large, huge programs and you're trying to find errors. It's very helpful. Okay, this is all I have for this particular lesson. You will be turning in a document where you're going to be looking at some documentation. Let's take a look at the book. Okay, 1-7. You're going to create a Pages document, or you can create a Word document. Doesn't really matter, whatever you create. And save it in your project folder. And then you're going to learn about the UI view class, the user interface view class. You're just going to answer these questions about the user interface view class. Save it and submit it. Make sure that your name is on the file name. So for example, I would have Jeanette Serrano, and then the name of this lab, which is use documentation. Okay? Thank you.